Leon Brown just opened up about the childhood sister wives never showed us, and what they revealed could change how fans see the Brown family forever. Stay with me, because this story gets deeper. There was a side of Leon Brown's childhood that sister wives viewers never fully saw. For years, fans watched Leon grow up on television, but the cameras could only show one version of their life. Now, years later, Leon is finally talking about their childhood in a way that has made fans look at the Brown family story very differently. And what makes this even more interesting is that Leon has made it clear that this is not going to be just one conversation. There is much more of their story still to come. Before Leon became an adult and built a life away from the cameras, they were simply a child growing up inside one of television's most complicated families. Leon was born to Cody and Mary Brown and spent their early years surrounded by a large family, strong religious beliefs, strict expectations, and eventually television cameras. When Sister Wives premiered, America was introduced to the Brown family and their unusual family structure. Viewers saw the adults explaining their lifestyle, but the children were also living through that experience in real time. Leon was one of those children, and their childhood was happening while millions of people were forming opinions about their family. Leon has recently looked back at those early years from an adult perspective. They described themselves as extremely shy and fearful when they were young. Leon also explained that they were homeschooled and had limited interaction with other children outside their religious community. That meant their world was largely centered around their family, their education, their church, and the beliefs they had been taught. For a child, that can become your entire understanding of what normal life looks like because you have nothing outside of it to compare it to. Leon has now described that environment using the word cult, but it is important to understand that this is Leon's personal description of their childhood and religious upbringing. It should not be presented as an independently proven fact about every person in that community. What matters for the story is that Leon is describing how they personally experienced those years and how their understanding of that childhood has changed over time. What makes Leon's story especially interesting is that they did not describe every part of their childhood as simply terrible. In fact, they remembered genuinely enjoying some parts of their religious education. Leon talked about loving lessons about Jesus and church history and enjoying being involved in the religious community. That detail is important because childhood memories are complicated. A person can love certain experiences, love certain people, and still grow up to question the environment that surrounded them. Leon has even questioned their own childhood feelings and wondered whether they truly loved those experiences or whether they also felt rewarded for being obedient and deeply involved. That kind of reflection shows that Leon is not simply trying to erase their past. They appear to be trying to understand it. They're looking back at the child they were and asking difficult questions about why they believed certain things, why they behaved certain ways, and how those early experiences influenced the adult they eventually became. When the Brown family moved again, Leon's world continued to change. The family eventually settled in Las Vegas, where their lives became even more public because of Sister Wives. Suddenly, the family that had already lived an unusual lifestyle was being watched by television audiences. Leon was growing up while cameras followed major family decisions, arguments, celebrations, moves, and changes. The audience saw moments from Leon's life, but viewers never had access to everything happening inside their mind. That is one of the strangest parts of growing up on television. The public can feel like it knows you even when it has only seen carefully edited pieces of your life. Fans watched Leon grow from a child into a teenager and eventually an adult. They watched Leon become more outspoken and begin making decisions about their own identity and future. But behind the television story was a person still trying to understand who they were. As Leon became an adult, their relationship with the television world also changed. Instead of remaining constantly involved in the Sister Wives storyline, Leon increasingly focused on building a private life. Their relationship with Audrey Chris became an important part of that life, and Leon began creating an identity that was separate from simply being one of Cody Brown's children. That separation became even more important as Leon started setting boundaries with fans. Leon has made it clear that being recognized from Sister Wives does not mean strangers automatically have the right to approach them in public. For years, viewers were used to seeing the Brown family as entertainment, But Leon wanted people to understand that they are also a private person trying to live an ordinary life. That boundary says a lot about Leon's relationship with fame. The cameras may have been part of their childhood, but Leon did not choose to be born into a television family. They grew up with an audience watching them before they were old enough to understand what that would mean. Now, as an adult, Leon has more control over what they share and what they keep private. Then came August 2026, and everything started to change again. Leon began publicly talking about their childhood and the religious environment they grew up in. Instead of simply discussing their present life, they started going backward and explaining what it was like to be a child inside that world. And Leon did something that immediately caught people's attention. They made it clear that this story was not going to be finished in one post. Leon indicated that their story would come in multiple parts and different forms. That means what fans have already heard may only be the beginning. For Sister Wives viewers, this is significant because for years Cody Brown was one of the main people explaining the Brown family story. He was the father, the husband, and one of the central voices of the show. But the children have now grown up. They no longer have to let their parents explain their childhood for them. They can describe what those experiences felt like from their own perspective. Leon is not the only Brown family member who has questioned the religious environment they grew up around. Christine Brown has also spoken publicly about her own upbringing and has used strong language when describing the religious environment of her childhood. But every family member has their own experience, and Leon's story belongs to Leon. That is what makes this moment so powerful. We are no longer only hearing the story from the adults who created the family structure. We are beginning to hear from the children who lived inside it. And then there is Cody. Leon's relationship with their father has become distant, and Leon has publicly discussed painful feelings surrounding that relationship. Recent reporting has also covered Leon's claims about communication with Cody following Garrison's death and the funeral. Those are Leon's personal claims and should be understood as their account rather than independently proven facts. But regardless of where viewers stand on the family conflict, the emotional impact on Leon is clearly something they are now willing to discuss. For years, Leon remained relatively private about many of these issues. Now that silence appears to be changing, and that raises a much bigger question. Why now? Why did Leon decide that 2026 was the right time to start talking about childhood experiences that happened many years ago? Is it simply part of their own healing and understanding? Are they trying to explain the person they became? Or did years of being watched finally convince them that they wanted to tell their side of the story themselves? Only Leon knows the complete answer, but one thing is becoming clear. The person fans remember from the early seasons of Sister Wives is not the whole story. That was a child growing up in circumstances they did not choose. The person speaking today is an adult who can finally decide what their own story means, and that may be the biggest change of all. Leon spent years being watched by millions of people. Now, instead of allowing television to tell the story for them, Leon is beginning to tell it in their own words, and if Leon really continues sharing their story in multiple parts, then what fans have heard so far could be only the surface, because the biggest question is no longer what happened on Sister Wives. The biggest question is what the cameras never showed, and Leon Brown may finally be ready to talk about it. This is only the beginning. As Leon Brown continues to look back on their childhood, one thing becomes clear. This is not simply a story about growing up on television, but a story about growing up, questioning what you were taught, finding your own identity, and eventually deciding that your past should no longer control your future. Leon spent much of their childhood inside a world that was already different from what most people experienced. Their family was large, religion played an important role in their upbringing, and eventually television cameras became part of everyday life. What viewers saw on Sister Wives was only one small part of that experience, because behind every episode was a child still trying to understand their family, their beliefs, and themselves. As Leon grew older, they began making choices that were increasingly their own. They became more independent, built their relationship with Audrey, and created a life outside the family television storyline. That journey also meant becoming more comfortable with setting boundaries. Leon has made it clear that being recognized from television does not mean strangers automatically have access to their private life. That boundary is important because Leon's story is ultimately about taking control of their own identity. As a child, Many of the biggest decisions surrounding their life were made by adults, but as an adult, Leon can decide what they believe, what they share, who they trust, and what kind of relationship they want with their family. Their recent comments about childhood show how much that perspective has changed. Leon can now look back at the environment they grew up in and describe it in their own words. They have also acknowledged that childhood memories can be complicated. There were things they loved, things they questioned, and experiences they understand differently today than they did when they were young. That is why Leon's story feels different from a simple family controversy. It is about a person trying to understand their own history. The Brown family has gone through enormous changes since Sister Wives began. Relationships changed, children grew up, marriages ended, and the family that once appeared united became much more divided. Through all of those changes, Leon was also becoming an adult and discovering who they wanted to be outside of the family story. The child who once appeared on television is now an adult who does not need the show to explain who they are. Leon is no longer simply known as Cody and Mary's child, or one of the Brown kids. They have their own identity, their own relationship, their own boundaries, and their own understanding of the past. There may still be disagreements within the Brown family, and different family members may remember certain events differently, but Leon does not need everyone to agree with their experience for that experience to matter. That is something viewers may have missed during the early years of Sister Wives. The children were not characters created for television. They were real people growing up while millions of strangers watched them. Now those children are adults, and they have the right to decide what parts of their childhood they want to discuss. Leon has already indicated that their story is not finished, which means there may be more memories and more reflection in the future. But whatever comes next, the biggest change has already happened. Leon is no longer allowing the cameras, the family structure, or the old Sister Wives image to define them. They are defining themselves. And maybe that is the real ending to this chapter. Not another family fight, not another headline, and not another argument about Cody, but a person finally taking ownership of their own story. For years, fans watched Leon grow up. Now Leon is showing those fans what growing up actually meant. Their childhood may have happened in front of cameras, but their future belongs to them. And if Leon continues sharing their story, fans may finally hear the parts of their life that television never showed. This chapter may be ending, but Leon's journey is still moving forward. If you want more Sister Wives stories and updates, subscribe now because this story may be just getting started.